Hey, one more thing before you go. What do you do when you find yourself drinking daily to relieve the stress from corporate jobs, especially when you work in the alcohol industry? In today's society, where drinking is something that is widely accepted by the majority of individuals as a societal norm, how do we recognize it when it is not normal and it's affecting our lives in a negative way? Stay tuned. My guest in this episode is going to help you understand how to recognize that journey and what kind of tools are available to help you manage your relationship with alcohol. I'm your host, Michael Herst. Welcome to One More Thing Before You Go. My guest in this episode is Ruby Williams. After working in the wine and alcohol industry for 19 years, selling, marketing, and reporting wine, she considered herself to be a normal drinker, but realized she was becoming reliant on wine to relieve stress. As a single mom and she used alcohol to push down negative emotions, she made a decision to stop drinking alcohol for the rest of her life. I know that there's a lot of us doing it these days, and we're here to help you to understand how to do yours. By committing to not drinking alcohol, she was open and able to overcome food addiction and learn to manage her health. She achieved her goal of starting her own business as a Naked Mind certified coach. We're going to talk about that. And this never would have happened if she were still drinking alcohol. Her mission is to help as many people as she can to overcome their alcohol abuse and then change their life for the better and live a life free of alcohol. Ruby, welcome to the show.
Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Ruby Williams, like you said.
Absolutely, I'm excited to share your journey and the kind of tools that you're going to give us for those individuals. My wife stopped drinking about she hit her 3 year this last May, actually.
Wow. What I do with I use pom poms, so I would say, yay. Yeah, congratulations. I love to
uh,
celebrate wins.
Yeah, she it was it's been a journey. When people recognize, I grew up with two alcoholic parents, and so I understand that environment extensively from childhood. I had a very dysfunctional family growing up, so I understand your journey. And of course, working as we've spoken before prior to this, I worked a DUI task force for a number of years, and my specialty was DUI, driving under the influence, and drugs and alcohol related issues. I worked domestic violence, which, a large number of those calls were directly related to alcohol and so forth. So it has an effect on our lives, even though society has kind of made it a normal. Well, we'll get into that. When I'm excited about your journey, where you came from and how you got there. I know you said you grew up in California in
Yep.
the wine country.
Yes.
So I guess I'm assuming Napa Valley,
It's Sonoma County, actually, but
Sonoma
which
County.
is right next to Napa County.
So same arena.
Yep.
So what was your family like? I mean, you said that your father was a winemaker, but what was your family like overall?
Overall, I was from a divorced family, so my family, we drank a lot, Irish, kind of background. Um, and,
And
but
did you have any brothers, sisters?
I have three stepbrothers and sisters, one brother, and a half sister. So, really big family. And I also switched schools every single year because my parents were divorced and I would go back and forth. So, kind of a nomadic, a little bit always moving around background. I was like a band geek. I in high school I played volleyball. I like sports and was more in the academic. And I always wanted to be like this good girl. So it's kind of strange. Maybe that's part of why I hid my drinking too and hid my food addictions, because I always wanted to, on the outside, appear like everything was normal and good, when inside I was struggling. Yeah.
I think that happens with a lot of families that grew up in that environment. My parents divorced. Like my mother was married 5 times, so it creates an environment for us where sometimes we have to mask our living environment when it seems like everybody else has a normal home life and what you see on TV, the picture
Mhm.
perfect life, and then we don't have that. Sometimes we kind of mask where we're at in life,
That's a
and
really
then yeah, unfortunately, I think it moves into alcohol addiction, drug addiction, into food disorders, self esteem issues. I mean, there's a whole slew of stuff like that. Did you go to college?
I did. What I did first actually is I was an exchange student. Right after high school, I lived in Sweden for a year with a host family,
That's
and
very cool.
such a cool experience. And then I went to the junior college, and then I went to state school, and I actually have a degree in cartography, map making, and geography. So that's I loved college. Worked really hard. Um, I didn't, I had to work full time all through college. So I always am proud of that. I'm a very hard worker. Yeah.
That's a good attribute to have. It is, I mean, especially these days. Well, I don't want to get in trouble by saying some things, but these days it seems like everybody wants to work 20 hours a week and get paid for 40.
Right.
But I mean that would be the perfect lifestyle though, to be able to work 20 and get paid for 40.
Yeah.
Give us a nice work life balance that kind of, you get to play more than you do get to, work more. Did you I know that you said you went and got a degree with cartography. What an interesting aspect. I didn't even know they did that, to be honest with you. I
Mhm.
mean, what did you want to be when you grew up? A map maker?
Well, I had this like really strong desire to travel, yes, and maps and the world and cultures. And I wasn't sure. You do remember the game Where in the World is Carmen San Diego? I got to work for the
I
company
do.
that did the design work for that. Um, Now it's totally normal to have like our iPhones, with driving directions. But right when I
Yes.
graduated from college, that remember it was like a little line, and it was directions in your car. I wanted to work for a company that like was going to do that, but that didn't quite happen. So I ended up working in accounting. I went back to school, got an accounting degree because I couldn't find anything in the cartography world. So I was an accountant in finance and started to do that. Um, yeah.
Well, it makes it diverse. I mean, I think my daughters asked me, I think we had a conversation a few years ago, and my youngest daughter said, I've switched jobs like 4 jobs now, Dad. I said, well, before, she's like, well, I don't want to give her age away because, I'm a dad, but I'm also a gentleman. So we'll just say she's well, we'll put early 30s, early, like way early 30s. But I said by the time I was probably 22 years old, I had probably worked. I was a dishwasher and a busboy and a cook and a fry cook and a pizza maker and worked for a kitchen cabinet place building cabinets. And I mean, it gave me a diverse opportunity to understand different ways that people do their jobs, and I appreciated that, especially as I move forward in my professional capacity in law enforcement. But I think we all kind of do that, explore just a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting segue, Michael. That in terms of alcohol use disorder, it can affect anybody and everyone. It really can. Any career. My clients have been teachers, doctors, um, therapists, policemen. You know, it's everyone. Nurses. Um, I'm not. I just. It's anyone. Accountants. So you're not alone, I guess is what I want to say. You're not alone. In fact, really, really smart, intelligent people that um, are leaders, it can happen. So it's just, I want you to know you're not alone and it's not your fault. So thank you for letting me share that.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because we're human beings, and everybody wants to be perfect, and everybody wants to present that perfect picture of how their life is to the world because we feel that's what we have to do. But in reality, sometimes we always need to look around to see if we need a helping hand,
Mhm,
and to recognize that maybe we do need a little help, and it's okay to ask for that help,
mhm,
no matter what it happens to be. So, I think that you've through part of your journey, you've learned to be able to create an environment for people to get help in certain areas of life, especially coming into coaching. So, and again, we'll talk about that in a little bit here, but I know that through your journey, you said you are a mother. Um, how many kids? May I ask how many kids you have?
yeah, I have one son. He's 25, so he's an adult and he's been launched.
What? It reminds me of that movie with Matthew McConaughey and
Right.
Sarah Jessica Parker, "Failure to Launch."
Yes, he's launched. We'll see. Yeah, if it fails, but
Yeah, it's one of those. Look, I'm a dad. I've got two lovely daughters, wonderful daughters. They're both intelligent, beautiful young women that they are. I love them to death. I would do anything for them. But as you know, once a parent, you're always a parent. So even though they're adults and they're over 30, uh, I always get these phone calls, and they come at these times. You kind of go, okay, what do you want?
right.
What's going on? Yeah. So yeah, I do understand that. But hey, I love the term launched. I'm going to use that.
Mhm.
I'm going to use that. So, excuse me. How did you said you worked in the wine industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my story's a little different. Like my stepdad was a winemaker. So wine was revered in our family. I saw, have a glass of wine after work to relieve stress, like I said. Um, and but I want to start with I think I want to start with food addiction because for me personally, I started like numbing my feelings with food, and it was always like a weight thing. They go hand in hand for me. That's why I'm bringing it up. I feel like a lot of people have accelerator events, is what I call them, events, like maybe a divorce or a death, or you can be a normal drinker, as they call it, like a normal drinker for many, many, many years, and then oftentimes, like if you using it, alcohol, to, for my example, relieve stress or handle grief, it could tip the scale where it becomes an addiction, or you use it to abuse. And how that happens is usually over time. But for me, I had weight loss surgery, so I had gained about 100 pounds quite quickly after a home foreclosure and then a child custody battle. There was a lot going on. And what's so interesting about my story and people that have had weight loss surgery is, yeah, you can cut away a piece of your stomach and lose the weight, but you haven't addressed any of your thinking, right? The numbing, the want to numb, or that food addiction's still there, and it just translated for me to alcohol. So I'm in my wine job, I'm working, and it just I start drinking every day. It was like, oh, maybe a glass or two here and there, and it's just the nature of addiction, where you, in terms of the science, you your dopamine goes up and your brain chemicals, but then they crash. Usually it only takes about 20 minutes, and then you want another glass, and that's how it can happen. And then you keep trying to have that feeling again, and honestly, your tolerance can increase quickly, and then you have more and more. um, and only people can self-diagnose themselves. You have to decide if you want to feel better. For me, I was feeling worse. I was in this cycle where it was like an obsession, or I would wake up in the morning and I would vow, I'm not going to drink today. And I would feel horrible in the mornings. I would start to feel better around noon, but then, like I said, I had this job, stress. By the afternoon, I was thinking, I just have to relieve stress. I'll have one glass of wine just to relieve stress. The next thing I know, I've had a whole bottle. it just kept increasing. And then my wine drinking increased or changed from hard alcohol, from wine to hard alcohol. That's when it got really, really scary. My world got smaller and smaller, meaning I wasn't going out as much. I was drinking at home alone. I would drink until I passed out and then wake up at like 2 in the morning, go, oh my gosh, I did it again. Stay up. I would be up from like 2 to 5, beating myself up. It's just this horrible Groundhog's Day. Yes.
And what point in your journey did you actually come back into that? You grew up with it, but you kind of did some other things. How did you get into working for the wine industry?
Well, I married a chef and we started moving with for his business, his career, to different areas. And when we actually separated, I moved back to Sonoma County. And that's when I said, I'm going to apply for the wine industry jobs because I had worked when I was younger in the wine industry, and I really thought that's what I wanted to do. So kind of had to do with getting a divorce and moving back to be close to family. That's kind of where my journey went. And I wanted to raise my son near family and come back to my grassroots, Sonoma County. So that's that's what happened there.
At what point in your life did you understand that you had and when I ask this, correct me if I'm wrong, because we recognized with my wife, we recognized kind of an addictive personality. So she did the same thing. She had an addiction to food, and she would use food to overcome things. She would use food for stress. She would use food, to fulfill the void, so to speak.
Yes.
And then she recognized from that particular point when she started managing that and dealing with that, then she started drinking
Yep.
more. And when she realized
Similar.
that she was drinking more, then she went back to sugar,
Yep.
and this kind of a thing. So from a perspective of understanding, recognizing how we recognize our addictive personality type stuff, at what point did you realize your addictive personality traits, for whether it be food or whether it be alcohol? And I'm assuming food was first,
Yeah.
and then it transitioned into alcohol, correct?
Yes, yes. So back probably when I was an early teen, a lot of women, I know it's for girls too, girls or boys, but you know, it's all about how we look and our weight and that and then numbing feelings. So I really relate to just what you shared about your wife because that's so similar. I was like, yep, me, similar. So I know there's a lot of us out there. But I'll just speak specifically to alcohol that on average, people know that they probably have a problem for about 7 years before you actually seek um, support or seek a solution. You try things for 7 years on average. Again, that's a long time of creating rules around it. Or, I started with, oh, I'll just drink on the weekends only, or I'll only have one glass, um, but rules didn't work for me. And then it's a shameful place to be because, like you said, Michael, you want to be perfect on the outside. Well, and then you're feeling this shame, like, why am I drinking? Is this only me? I really thought like I was the only one dealing with this because it looks like everybody else can handle it. When I say everybody else, it's like other family and friends. They appear to be able to drink and take it or leave it like I used to. So I couldn't figure out, you know, why was this happening to me? And I was very angry because I wanted to be a normal drinker. And every time I tried to stop, also, um, I worked in the wine industry, and I would use as an excuse. Well, I have to drink because this is my work, my industry. Um, I do want to share one thing. A close family member uh, was the one that told me about weight loss surgery, and I had no idea. But 3 out of 4 people with weight loss surgery or bariatric surgery can become addicted to alcohol. They can start to abuse alcohol after food. It's very common. And my relative, um, told me about the surgery. And then about 3 years later, I was at her funeral and I didn't know that she was abusing alcohol. So I know this is a thing and I just want to help so many people. So I'm here to just share the message and that you're not alone. I think it keeps people in shame when you think you're alone. And it's not your fault. So I got to keep repeating those words because it's very important.
It is important. I mean, again, a lot of us don't. Society and culture, especially in America, they bring out a stigma, basically, of that, whether it be drugs or alcohol or anything along that line, addictive personality type situations, whether it be food, drugs, alcohol, porn. I mean, it's a situation that there's always a stigma around those at such a point that if you come out and admit it, say, I have a problem, or I quit drinking, then, or I quit doing whatever I was doing. I changed my eating habits because of this, or whatever the case may be. It's it's kind of one of those side eye looks. People go, "You did what? Why'd you do that?" Because today, well, I grew up in, obviously I'm not a young chicken, so I grew up watching TV in the '60s and the '70s and the '80s, and what do you see on TV? The guy comes home, the woman comes home, drink, smoke, drink, smoke, drink, smoke, drink, smoke. You
It's
go
not
out, drink,
even in
smoke,
the
drink,
60s,
smoke.
70s, and 80s. If you watch shows today, this is
Exactly.
happening.
And that contributes into now. They
Yeah.
show party, party, Animal House.
Yeah.
How much can you drink? It is they've normalized drinking to such a point that if you say you don't want to drink, then you're weird or you're on the outside from a societal
From a
perception.
societal perspective. But I'm here to say that you can learn to take it or leave it. You can. Um, so that's what I like to say. I mean, I'm a non drinker, but people start my programs with you don't have to stop right away. It's about getting curious and aware and then changing your thoughts and beliefs and emotions around alcohol. It's different. It's totally different model than AA. AA is about white knuckling it and stopping right away and then you work on your beliefs and but
Right.
programs I and this naked mind methodology is about awareness and self-compassion and then you stop the behavior. So it's a little different.
I think that's a nice approach because, like, when my father was an alcoholic. I told you that.
Yes.
He went through. He was made to at that time. This was back in. See, I was 15, so it was back in the '70s. Um, so in the '70s, he had gotten like 3 DUIs or 2 DUIs. So they put him in an alcohol, a quote. I can't show you the quotes, but alcohol rehabilitation program, and it consisted of putting him in a facility where they give him antabuse, which, and for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a drug that used to give for people to force them to stop drinking because it makes you extremely sick when you do drink with it and makes you throw up and,
Yeah.
detrimental. But alcoholics and people who have that depth of alcoholism can drink past that. My father did it. My father was on any abuse, but he drank past that.
Mhm.
He learned to adapt to it and over, from that perspective. But it also puts you through AA, and they work. And I'm not dissing the AA because I actually
I'm not either. Hmm.
just short of a certification for drug and alcohol abuse counselor, and and we had to go through sit AA meetings, and then a bunch of family support type groups are the same thing, and it's what I see collectively within that. And I saw within my own father's journey through that was they make him do this step program, and the step program would work for a little while, but he still had the underlying issues that never got worked on. So the underlying issues that were making him drink were not necessarily addressed in the AA meetings
Exactly.
or the step program that they had put him on. The step program said, "Oh, if you wrong somebody, you got to go in and apologize, and you got to make
Make them
amends and things like this." Okay. Well, you can make amends to somebody, but that not might not be the root issue
Yes.
for your problem at the moment. For your not because your issue with drinking. So I think that unfortunately, um, in certain situations, I think your well, in all situations, I think your approach is a much more methodical option or an opportunity for, and we're going to talk about the program in specific, but it's a more of an opportunity for individuals to kind of get to the underlying root of the problem of
Exactly.
why you're
Why
drinking.
drinking? Yes.
Yeah, because once you know why, it's easier to deal with it, and that comes with anything, whether
Mhm.
it be anxiety, depression, even in mental health, that from those perspectives, a lot of times you have to understand why. What's the root issue of why you're going through what you're going through and what you're trying to manage? And I think the other thing is that you brought up earlier is it is an opportunity for you to manage it because we all have a choice in life. In when you're presented with that choice, you are the only one that can make that choice. You are the only one that can say, yes, I'm going to do this, or no, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
Yes, I will take these actions, or no, I won't take these actions.
Mhm.
Nobody can push you, nobody can pull you. If you need help, there's always people that can hold you up. There's people that can hold your hand
Mhm.
as you walk through this journey, and obviously you need to be aware and look around you. There are people when you fall that will be there to pick you up, and you have to be aware of those situations. The support system, I think, is integral in helping somebody manage this in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah.
You know, from that perspective, how did you? You once you recognized that you wanted to stop drinking, what kind of steps did you take in order for you prior to you coming to this coaching program that you are now, your methodology that you're now sharing with other people? What kind of tools were brought to you that allowed you to recognize and then start to overcome that?
Really great question. I Like I said, I started for years with trying to manage it on my own. And I felt very alone and it didn't really work. I had, I was in denial too for a very long time. But I would say the biggest catalyst was reading This Naked Mind, the book. It, I didn't feel alone from the very first sentence of her introduction of the book. She starts out with, it's 3:33 in the morning. I'm laying here awake, beating myself up. Why did I do it again? And I just was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking to me. This makes sense. I also tried um, Kaiser outpatient program. Uh, and then they said to me, you need to go to an AA meeting, which I did. But I remember thinking, isn't that like an old religious book? I didn't know much about it. I really didn't. And it just didn't seem, it seemed odd to me that I go to the medical, field to seek treatment, and I was in the addiction department, and they send me to an AA meeting that's out in town. It just seems so strange to me, and that there's changes now. So I discovered there's online programs, there's all kinds of online communities, there's quit lit books, like This Naked Mind is one. There's all kinds of people that share their stories, there's memoirs. The alcohol free movement or sober curious movement is huge. And I discovered that there's just all these people out there, there's support. And I loved the science. I love not having a label. Everybody that drinks alcohol could be on the trajectory, or they're on the graph of possibly getting addicted to alcohol. Anybody, everybody. So it's not your fault. That was a really big, catalyst for me too. And then I started to share with other people in communities, and that kind of relieved some of my shame by being vulnerable and just being curious and aware and looking around, and like we talked about, noticing that it's everywhere. When I say everywhere, it's, you go to school events, it's there. There's you have beer at baseball games, mimosas at brunch. There's girls' trips. There's fine wine at restaurants. There's birthday parties. There's work events where you have champagne. It's everywhere. And then you watch TV, and it's in every movie. It's in every TV show. It's in series. Everybody's having a drink. Even in the future, you watch a show where it's 250 years, like a sci-fi. They're drinking wine. It's so bizarre to me, now that I can see it with different eyes. And once you know and you learn something, you can't unlearn it. So now that I'm aware of where it's everywhere, it's so amazing. But the big thing is how I started is I decided with my cousin, okay, this is part of my story. We decided to try this together. And it was great to have somebody to do this with. Um, and we just tried it. We tried to have like a couple of days alcohol free, see how we feel. It was scary, but I did it. And then I tried a 30-day challenge. I don't know if you've heard of like a dry January.
I
Um,
have heard of that. They
yeah,
did that on GMA pushed that
yeah,
actually.
it's a thing. So I tried it. I wasn't 100%, I got a couple of weeks alcohol free, but that's when I knew I felt so much better that I wanted to continue this journey and I wanted to figure it out. So I also tried, you mentioned antabuse with your father. I tried naltrexone. It's another drug that it kind of relieves the desire. It's weird. Like if you're drinking like a glass of, say, wine, it stops the neurotransmitters in your brain so that it's like drinking a glass of water. But I did the same thing as your dad in that I pushed through it and I was able to still drink even though I was on the naltrexone. So it doesn't work for some people, those kinds of things. But I say try everything. That's the way I am. Try, um, there's podcasts like that are around quitting alcohol or sober curious communities. There's all kinds of books and online programs. There's AA, there's rehabs, I say try anything and everything because it's worth it. This lifestyle is worth it, and it's wonderful to be on the other side. Um,
So,
yeah,
okay, if I can, so the tools that when you started recognizing you took you did the challenges to see if that would work. You tried this kind of thing. Were there any kind of tools that you, other than the books, did the books that you read, the what did you call it, the Naked Mind,
this naked mind.
this Naked Mind? I'm assuming that she is along the same journey as you're taking with alcohol, correct?
Yeah, well, the book is about getting curious and aware and looking at the beliefs. So we do a lot of liminal thinking work, where you take a belief like alcohol relieves stress, and you start to dive in with each individual client. I'm looking at their stories around it. What's the truth? A lot of it's just story. Maybe alcohol did feel like it relieves stress when you first were
Right.
drinking it, maybe in your 20s or 30s or whatever your story is. But eventually it tips the scale to where it's actually causing stress, as the example. So,
And it's a depressant.
yeah, and it's a depressant.
Alcohol is a depressant. Everybody think, oh, we got to celebrate, we got to celebrate, got to celebrate. But in actuality, alcohol is a depressant.
Yeah, you only have about 15 to 20 minutes of a buzz feeling. Even if in my end of my drinking years, I didn't even get any kind of a buzz feeling. It was just in my head. So we actually even do like experiments where you really get curious and you drink very slowly. We also don't say relapse. We don't say alcoholic.
Right.
There's no labels. It's more about grace and compassion, um, and exploring. We call it data points. So you can get more data. So, okay, you drank. Well, why? Let's get curious.
Yeah.
Let's explore. Let's ask questions. Let's see what kind of underlying thoughts and emotions were behind that.
What a brilliant approach because you're not vilifying it. You're actually working through the issue and working through the why.
Yes.
I think, in society today, in like I said earlier, whether you're dealing with even mental health or um, if you have PTSD, for example, as well as something like addiction, whether it be food or whether or not it be drugs or alcohol. there's always an underlying why. What put you into this position? Why are you here? Why are you wanting this? What are you trying to accomplish with this? And watching this journey through both in my career, personal life, and my career, it was interesting to see and understand that the majority of and this is by no means saying anything against any therapist out there or anybody that's working in this field, because I respect you, what you do, but it unfortunately doesn't center on the why. And I think that understanding why helps you to come to a solution as to how to overcome or manage it. And so I like that approach. I think that it's a much more compassionate approach.
Mhm.
You're not judged, in my opinion.
Right. I've
You
been there. That's what's amazing about being a coach is I can say I've been there. I've done that. I can
yeah.
relate. You're not alone. Like and zero judgment, safe place to share, what you think is your deep dark secrets. It's totally safe and confidential. So,
It's like that old cliche, I've walked a mile in your shoes, and obviously you have. So it and then some. So, you have an approach that kind of builds confidence with individuals that shows them that you don't just understand, you have empathy for where they're at, where they're coming from, because you've been there, done it yourself, and experienced it yourself. And I think understanding is great, but empathy, just as an emphasis on that understanding from a deeper level, which is always good from that position. So what did you I know that you made the decisions through reading the book, and you made the decisions with attempting to stop, like with the 30-day challenges and things like that. What kind of tools did you end up utilizing yourself in order to help you to manage this before you quit completely?
such a good question. Um, I will talk about the tools that I use now as a coach, because I have so many more than even when I, attempted and got alcohol free. So my sobriety date, by the way, I don't think I shared that with you, is
Yeah.
May of 2019. So I'm now about 4.5 years alcohol free, somewhere around there.
See,
And
May's a good month for that. My wife did hers in May.
oh, really?
Yeah.
It was actually the day after Mother's Day, and this is special kind of meaning there. My son, I told him for years, I'm going to quit drinking, and it just escalated and escalated. And I remember it was the day after Mother's Day, and I told him, and he said, "You've you've said this for years and years. You're not going to do it." And I kind of use that as like I'm going to prove you wrong too. I got some like I just was ready. So how do you know if you're ready to? I want to just say this. Um, it's when you think you must change. Are you tired of, that being tired of being tired, that phrase? Um, are you starting to realize that your life, you're just not living up to your full potential? Or are you worried about your health? Like I was just worried about my health all the time. I was having like heart pains, liver pains, brain fog. My vision was going, my health was going. And then I realized that I needed to take responsibility. If it's not my fault that I became addicted, I just needed to like take radical responsibility for my health and for my life. And the other thing was that I started to believe I could. I started to read these stories, like I said, where people did it. And like I can be that inspiration for people. But tools, oh my gosh, so many tools. Tools around helping people remove shame. I have tools around helping people reframe their beliefs and thoughts. We're now discovering through science that emotions, having positive emotions, and really helps with addiction. So there's so many new ways to help with addiction that have come up in the last like 10 years. And I'm utilizing these kinds of science-based methodologies. Uh, One of my favorite, okay, tools, you were asking specific tools and tactics, is to really get into your body, and instead of drinking alcohol, ask yourself, what do I really need right now? And a lot of times you're you're so used to, you have these strong neural pathways, these like grooves where you're hungry, but you think you need alcohol. You're bored, but you think you need alcohol. Or you're thirsty. So you can down to the basics of, we use an acronym HALT plus B. So you ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I tired? Am I angry or lonely or bored? And you go through, this is a really good tactic to use. And then you address that first. And the other really cool tactic is to play it forward. I call this like play the tape forward. And that's, how do you want to feel tomorrow morning? And it can really work. Another one, I have so many, but just, one day at a time. Instead of saying, "Oh, I'm not going to drink for the rest of my life," or something. We start with really small goals. Maybe the first goal is just try one night. Try one night, see what happens. And then maybe you get to decide your goals. Again, I'm not running the show in terms of your goals and when you're ready to stop drinking, or how or if you want to moderate or learn how to control it. It's all about you. I love having smaller goals and then lengthening it. So maybe you go one day, and then maybe you try a week. And what worked, what didn't work? I'll always be asking those questions. What worked well and what didn't work? So
Baby
it's
steps,
like teamwork with a coach. It's really an eye guide.
like baby steps,
And baby steps,
one
definitely.
step at a time.
One step at a time is really important.
Yeah, I think that one step at a time helps because then it doesn't put a uh, yes, I am educated, and I can't think of this word. It doesn't put a preconceived notion in your head that you have an expectation to have to complete something. Like, oh my gosh, I've got a test at the end. I've got a test in 6 weeks.
Right.
That kind of a feeling. You've got something that this is just one day at a time, one step at a time, and one day at a time. It comes as it comes,
Yeah.
which is, I think, a nice approach because it allows you to take the process and embed the process within ourselves
Hmm.
to allow us to move forward at a pace that we're comfortable with.
Hmm. And in this methodology, you learn. So it's about, instead of like I said, with AA model, you just stop drinking and then you
Yeah,
start to learn or figure that. Here, where it's like grace, compassion, awareness, curiosity, and
right.
learning. And then the last thing is changing the behavior, actually. So it's a lot of learning first.
Well,
And
that goes back to understanding the whys. You understand why, then it gives you maybe it gives you a foundation, I think,
Mhm.
for understanding what tools that you're going to use in order to change. You can't build a house without putting a foundation down and putting the walls up first, and then it's just it's a progress type
Exactly.
situation. So, what really inspires you to be? You talk about your tools, you talk about what you've done, but you decided to become a coach in regard to this, the Naked Mind certified coach.
Yep.
What inspired you to be a coach?
It's another great question. I'll tell you the truth. I ended up not working in the wine industry. I decided to change everything. I just couldn't support an industry that I believed was hijacking people's brains and creating it create like you had said, because you were a cop, it creates dysfunction in families. Parents aren't as aware. And I feel like I just got way off. Your question was, though, about what inspired me to become a coach. Well, all of that. I wanted to help society. I realized that, as a parent, I wasn't as present or kind when I was drinking. My personality changed. I'm more likely to be angry, pick arguments. um, it's just affecting work productivity. It's affecting people's potential to be their better selves. So in terms of just, I want to be a part of the change, part of the alcohol free movement. I want to be helping people live just feeling better. I mean, the point is we want to feel better. And um and also we want to I want to give back to society as well. I worked in the wine industry, like I said, and I was in wine marketing. I was helping promote wine, selling wine. Maybe people became addicted because of some of the ads that I produced. So I really wanted to um, figure out a way to just not let anybody else be in that deep, dark hole. Because when I was in addiction, I describe it as like a deep, dark hole or a dark cave where my life was getting smaller and smaller. And it's almost, I don't want to say in any kind of religious way, but it was like an enlightenment to see the light. Like when you're living in this deep, dark hole and you're in a cycle and you really, it's so hard to get out of it. I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. But it's the opposite. When you start to sleep better, you get some alcohol free days, you feel better, your mind clears up, you all of a sudden have more energy. That makes you more likely to exercise more, do better at work, improve your relationships, become a better parent. All of these things are possible and happen. So why did I become a coach? Because I knew what it was like. I wanted to help others, and I answered these three questions, Michael. It's who am I, what do I want, and what is my passion? And I spent about 6 months diving in to those three questions. And it's not who am I, like I'm a mom and I work and at this job. It's who am I deep inside. And the love and joy and compassion and empathy for others has come out so strong. Um, and this is just my passion. I want to give people hope and inspire and motivate and guide and provide a roadmap with solutions as well. So it's not just the
Yeah.
fluffy, it's I have actual solutions where clients get results. Period.
Well, that's an amazing
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice when we're able to find our purpose in life, and
Yeah.
sometimes our purpose changes in the middle of our journey. When we understand that the purpose that we thought we were on wasn't necessarily the one that we're supposed to be on permanently or for the next chapter in our life.
Exactly.
So finding your new purpose in life, I think, is a very positive thing because we all want purpose and we all want a reason for being here. And the benefit of being here with something that can help other people is that not only do we achieve our own goals of wanting to help others,
Mm,
then we can help those people by holding their hand through their journey. So that
yeah.
again, you said earlier, they're not alone, which is really a good thing. Um, the the in starting your coaching journey, tell me about how you got into the coaching system. How did you get? What happened there? How did you get into that?
Well, I had read Annie's book, like I said. Annie Grace wrote This Naked Mind, um, and then I did her 30-day challenges, kind of like a dry. It's called an alcohol experiment. It's like a dry January or a dry March. Um, and then I was on her mailing list, and I kept getting these emails that she's starting this Naked Mind Coaching Institute to teach people to be coaches to help others. And to be honest with you, I felt it. I felt it like I knew this is what I wanted to do. I just felt so strongly with all of my being that this was my next chapter of my life. And I signed up. I got um, approved and I did the training, and then I started my entrepreneur. I became which was one of my other things I always wanted to do was have a business for myself. um, it's hard to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of challenges, but it's been really, really cool, and I'm learning so much. Everything's figure outable, but I love to challenge myself. And when I was in that drinking cycle, I couldn't even take a class. I don't think I couldn't have done any of this. I just every night it was the same. It was making it through the day, then drinking in the evenings, maybe watching TV, and passing out, doing it again the next day, and just not sleeping. So, um, yeah, that is how I became a coach. And now I've been coaching for I was certified. Here's my in September of 2020, and I've had
Congratulations.
hundreds and hundreds of clients. Yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What are the principles behind the naked mind methodology?
The principles are led with grace, compassion, curiosity, awareness, science based approach. So that's what's really important. It's very science based. We really look at the the mind, the neural pathways, the brain chemistry, the different parts of the brain that are affected by addiction. And then we also have a big component with emotions. And it's all based on liminal thinking and reframing these beliefs and thoughts and feelings and perceptions that we perceive, or maybe our body even gets excited when you just even think about pouring a glass of wine, for example. But we dive in everywhere. We also look at there's three layers, by the way, that we look at. First is the substance itself. That alcohol, the components of, like, it's basically ethanol, gasoline. It's a toxin for your body. How does it process in your body? What happens to your body? There's the physical parts of it. There's society. So the first is substance, and then society is all that piece that we've been talking about. Like, it's normalized, and it's in beer commercials, and it's on TV shows and movies, and it has been for centuries. And um, and then there's the self piece. And this is the piece that we spend most of the time on. A lot of times you can kind of get through the self and the society, but then, the substance of society pretty quickly. But then the self piece, why are you drinking? And everybody is so unique. There are a lot of similarities I found in patterns. But most people are in two camps a lot of the times. They're social drinkers, um, and that's where they have a hard time, or they're drinkers at home, and they might be hiding their drinking even from family members or themselves. I can tell you this story that I would even hide it from myself. It sounds crazy. My son went to college, and that's probably when I drank my most heaviest. I had feelings of empty nest, sadness, and nobody else was home, and my drinking really, really increased. And I remember waking up every night at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and seeing the bottles, and just, I couldn't believe I did it again. I remember that would go through my mind. I did it again. How did I do this again? I don't even remember. But I would take those bottles and put them in the bottom of my recycling bin and hide them from myself. I didn't want to see it in the morning. I wanted to pretend it didn't happen. But it's very common if you've hidden your drinking from family or friends or even yourself, like I said, just like wanting to, like, be in denial. It's not happening. So that's answering
That's
that.
the methodologies.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good. I mean, it's a obviously it goes back to what we said earlier. It's kind of an approach where we take it one step at a time and one day at a time,
Yeah.
and then that way we don't feel um, pressured. I guess it would be a good word.
Mhm.
We don't feel pressured or obligated. It's something that we kind of can do at our pace, so
Yes.
that it kind of sinks in a little bit.
Hmm.
I would guess. So I think that your journey has been one that many, many, many others have taken. I mean, we we all have walked this journey at one point or another. I don't drink. My brother drinks. I don't drink. My sister doesn't drink either. But growing up in an alcoholic family, typically you tend to be an alcoholic. We all have the opportunity to make a choice in our lives and to see whether or not something is beneficial to us or something is not beneficial to us, or if we're fooling ourselves into thinking that it's beneficial. Roby, tell us a little bit about your coaching business and how somebody can find you and what kind of services that you offer, please.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So, I created my business name is Freedom Renegade Coaching. To me, being alcohol free, it's all about freedom. Freedom from alcohol, freedom from that, like, thinking about it. I used to think about it all the time. And then renegade, because it's going against the grain, against the grain of society when you say you don't want to drink. So, Freedom Renegade Coaching at www.freedomrenegadecoaching.com. And you can reach me at ruby.williams@freedomrenegadecoaching.com. So on my website, I have a superpower guide. And that's just a freebie for you, a free offering. And I call alcohol freedom as my superpower. I really feel like it's a superpower. So it's a little guide to help you. It's like the first step to get involved with me. I also do one-on-one coaching that I mentioned, where I love to have what's called a discovery call. There's a link right on my website where you click that link and can schedule a free call with me. We brainstorm. I hear your story. And then I can figure out where within my programs would it work best. Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it a 90-day program? I'm building a 90-day program right now. And then I also have a 30-day kind of challenge that I had mentioned before, where you can experiment dipping your toe in for 30 days and seeing what that's like. And I offer so much science and tactics and tools. And my one-on-one coaching it's probably my favorite because I really get to know you personally, and we work together. We usually weekly, and I really get to understand what are those reasons underneath, and we work on you and your story and your beliefs, and help turn around your drinking or whatever your goal is. Your goal can be that you want to just drink less. Your goal can be that you want to control. Most people, when they get dip their toe in and then they get some alcohol-free days like I did, they really want that lifestyle because you feel so much better every day. Every day you wake up with energy, and yeah, it's amazing. So, Freedom Renegade Coaching is the name of my business, and I help people get free from alcohol. But guess what? The very next thing, you want to work on the next thing in your life. We call it the big domino is alcohol, but then for me, next was food. Or some people, it's changing their careers or working on relationships. Um, so once you get free from alcohol, then you can start working on other things, and I can help with that too. So
Is
uh,
that part of the alcohol freedom badassery?
yes, yes, I really
Yeah, I
do.
love.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I
Alcohol
love
Free
that.
Badassery is my 90-day program that I'm designing right now. It's almost ready, and I would love to. That's more of a group coaching, which group coaching is amazing too, because when you have a group of people together, you don't feel alone in that
Yep.
people are sharing, and it can be very motivational. One person could be like, I'm, a week alcohol free, and somebody else has, a month, and somebody else is still struggling trying to get one day. So you can really like relate to each other. I love it.
It works really, really, really well. You have some courses that you're developing also that are coming down the road.
Yeah, I right now I'm developing a it's have a wine free weekend, and it's a way to just have one weekend alcohol free to try it. I also have a building a 7-day like alcohol free boot camp to have a your first week alcohol free,
Hmm.
and kind of because the first week is almost the most critical in terms of detox withdrawal. And well, here's what's an interesting fact: only 10% of heavy drinkers actually need a medical detox. But I always start with every single one of my programs. If you even think that I need you to talk to a medical doctor, you know. So, yeah. So, but most people can, 90% of heavy drinkers can can detox, and it's not as bad as you think. And I have some tools and tips on all of that too.
All that. So that, and when that comes out, that'll be on your website as well, so people have
Yeah,
the easy way to
yeah,
kind of learn about them and figure out how to get involved with them. I put your Instagram there as well at
yeah.
the bottom of the
Instagram.
screen.
I'm launching a podcast soon. I think in October.
October is a good month to do that.
Yeah.
That's my birthday month, so it's always a good month. But yeah, I'll make sure that all that's in the notes, show notes for everybody, and then there'll be a webpage dedicated specifically to this episode that'll have all those links, how to find you in those areas. So, uh, look, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I really appreciate your journey and where you have come from to get where you're at, Ruby. And this is one more thing before you go. So, I always ask, do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we leave?
before we go, one more thing. One more thing. You, if you're struggling in this way, you really can. I want to give you so much hope. And the thing that I didn't realize too, not only the health and just the confidence I have, I can look at myself in the mirror again. I have trust in myself. And that has gone so far just to living this lifestyle. I just want to give you so much hope that if you're struggling, that you too can change. You can do this.
Amazing words of wisdom. Thank you very much. Again, Ruby, thank you very much for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate it. I hope that we've been able to inspire, motivate, and educate some people out there,
Yeah.
and they can move forward in life. Again, I'll have everything and your website and how to get in touch with you available on the show notes as well as on the website. And for everyone else out there, one more thing before you all go. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go. Check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.